All right, everyone, welcome back to another installment of Introduction to Insect Morphology. This will be part 24. Last time we talked about insect eyes and kind of sensory perception there. We're still going to talk some about sensory perception and how insects detect their surrounding world today. But today we're going to go back to talking about setae, which are the hairs that cover insects. We talked a little bit about this when we were talking about the epithelium and the cuticle. So the cuticle is the exoskeleton, because the setal structures, the hair structures, are made out of cuticle for the most part. So epithelial cells and cuticle. So today we're going to go back to it and talk about it a little more in depth, so that you get a better understanding of setae, because setae are really important, one, for the insects and how they sense their environment, and two, they're really important for entomologists who want to better understand and identify insects, because with a lot of insects, setal patterns are used extensively for identification, including especially with things like flies, but also setae are also things like Lepidoptera scales, so butterfly and moth scales. All of those are just modified setae. There are many, many kinds of modified setae, so you should have a general understanding of how a seta functions. So, like I said before, the seta is a modification of the cuticle and the underlying epithelium. So in this diagram, this black portion, black is the cuticle. So this is the actual exoskeleton, and the seta grows directly out of the exoskeleton. So all of this is covered in cuticle here. And below that is the epithelium. So this blue is the epithelium. This is the living tissue of the body wall. And the yellow are the nuclei. Yellow is nuclei in all of these cells. So the epithelium secretes the cuticle, and it also, some of the modified cells of the epithelium will grow the setal hair. So two cells are required to make a functioning seta. You have a tormogen cell and a trichogen cell. So the tormogen is here in purple. This is the tormogen. And the tormogen cell makes the socket that the hair grows out of. So this divot in the cuticle is made from the tormogen, and that is in purple, and this orange is the trichogen. And the tricho means hair, so this is the cell which actually secretes the hair. This is what grows the hair. So the tormogen makes the socket, and the trichogen makes the bulbous cell, or the bulbous base, and secretes the actual seta. Seta is singular, setae, setae is the plural. So you might be thinking, well, what is this red part? This red cell is the nerve. So all setae on insects are innervated, and they have a sensory nerve attached to them. So the sensory nerve, the bottom here is the axon. Oh, you can't even see that. Let me zoom out a touch. This bottom part here is the axon. So this is the part of the nerve which eventually leads to interneurons and back to the brain. And then this thin part up here is the dendrite. And the dendrite is what actually attaches to the hair, or to the seta. And that is usually within like a dendritic sheath for protection. And around this dendrite at the base of this seta is a pocket of lymph. And lymph is water and salt and other proteins. Humans have lymph in their blood. Insects have lymph all over the place. This is called the receptor lymph cavity. And basically this section, this is filled with liquid as kind of a cushion, because you need to protect the nerve, but also you need to maintain a certain amount of pressure within the base of the seta. If there's too little, the seta will move around too much. And if there's too much, the seta will be too stiff. Because what the purpose of the seta is to move backwards and forwards with touch, and it will trigger this dendrite down here, and it will wiggle the dendrite. And whenever that seta moves back and forth, this dendrite wiggles, and a nerve impulse is sent through the nerve cell down the axon to the brain. So it's a very kind of basic structure in order to detect environmental stimuli onto on the insect. And this sort of nerve structure is modified in other sensilla. Sensilla are kind of the nerve of the exposed nerves on the insect that allow them to sense things. So whether it's smell or taste or heat or whatever, this setup is modified in order to perform those sensations. Additionally, the seta can do things that are not necessarily directly related to the environment. Sometimes what you want is proprioception. And proprioception is detection of how, like you, in humans, it's the detection of your body in space. And with insects, they're very, very concerned because of things like flight and movement, and they have a lot of limbs. It's the detection of their limbs in relation to each other and to the rest of their body. So this insect here, this is a caliphorid, and this is, you might know it as a blowfly or a corpse fly. So these are what, help decompose dead animals. And flies in general have lots and lots of setae. So if we zoom in here, you can see just how many hairs are all over this. And the arrangement of these setae can help identify the insects, especially with flies. But they are all going off in all sorts of directions. And some of them are to detect the environment, and some of them are to detect body position. So, for instance, if we zoom in here and look at the back of the head, between the head and the body here, you see this enormous concentration of setae. And these are, in some groups, this would be, or in some positions, this would be called a hair plate. But a lot of what these setae are doing is detecting the position of the head against the thorax. Because every time the fly moves its head around, it's brushing these various setae, and you're getting a lot of nerve stimuli, a nerve stimulation in this pocket here. So you can, if you were the fly, you would be able to tell where your head is moving in relation to your thorax, or if your thorax is twisting in its relation to the head. This sort of pattern also exists if you look at like the calypters, which are these membranes under the wings here. They are also covered in setae, which would get, as the wings are beating, the fly is able to detect the nerve stimulation from all of these hairs around the base of the wing, and it can detect the movement of its own wings that way. And then if you look at the legs, frequently these hair plates, like formal hair plates, exist between the joints of the legs, and you'll have high concentrations of setae at these joints, and it's so that the fly can detect the individual movement of the joints and get stimulation for that movement. And this is something that also occurs in people, although you probably don't think about it, because like every time you move your arm or you move your fingers, the nerves within there are detecting the movement, so that you can you instinctively know the position of your own body through the stimulation of those nerves. The same thing works for insects. So some of these are primarily used for, some of these setae are primarily used for detecting the environment, and some of them are used primarily for detecting the movement of the fly's own body. So, and these setae are all over the exterior portions of the fly. There's even, setae on the veins of the wings. If you look up here, if you look as we go up the wing here, you can see the continuation of these setae and microtrichae on the wings. So it's very, very useful for insects to have these. It gives them a lot of sensory information. On the genitalia, back here, you will also have a high concentration of setae. A lot of this is used in mate detection and environmental detection for mating purposes. So the more you understand the setae, the better. Not all insects are this densely covered in CD. This is this sort of density is not unique to flies, but it's much more common in flies. Um, Bees also tend to be covered in CD like this. Moths and butterflies are covered in CD like this. But when you look at some other insects, they're not quite as dense. One of the reasons that flies are so covered in CD like this is they are extremely agile flyers. So Setal patterns like this make them more agile, and that they get much more environmental input so that they can maneuver better. If you've ever tried to swat a fly, you know how agile that can be. So that is what I wanted to talk about today with the CETA. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.